Completing hazardous material-related fields in the CR-3 crash form. From 2015 to 2019, there were 21,107 fatal motor vehicle crashes involving a CMV in the United States, of which 13% occurred on Texas roadways. Given the size of the CMV crash problem in Texas, there is a critical need for Texas crash data to be as complete and accurate as possible. Several safety stakeholders use CRIS data to identify and address traffic safety problems involving large trucks. This data-driven approach is only effective if it has a foundation of high-quality data. Incorrect or incomplete data can lead to missing the most important problems or the application of less effective countermeasures. Funding and personal resources may also be misdirected. What is a commercial motor vehicle? Let's start by defining a CMV. According to the Texas Transportation Code, any motor vehicle hauling hazardous materials that is required to be placarded under the Hazardous Materials Transportation Act is a CMV. The Transportation Code also classifies vehicles as CMVs based on the motor vehicle or towed vehicle's weight or the vehicle's body style. The CMV section in the CR-3 is designed to collect information regarding the involvement of commercial motor vehicles in traffic crashes and must be completed for each commercial motor vehicle involved in the crash. Given this, the CMV section in the CR-3 must be completed each time a placarded vehicle is involved in a reportable crash. Why should hazardous material information be recorded in the CR-3? Commercial motor vehicles, or CMVs, are complex vehicles, often with a cab and one or more attached trailers. If a crash involves a CMV equipped to carry hazardous materials, it is important to determine if the hazardous material was on board or released at the time of the crash. Because each hazardous material comes with its unique set of side effects and harm potential, it is imperative for emergency responders to identify the hazard class of the released material to take appropriate emergency actions, ensure responder health and safety, identify public safety risk, and evaluate safety countermeasures. What is considered hazardous material? The United States Department of Transportation receives authority to regulate the transportation of hazardous materials from the Hazardous Materials Transportation Act through the Federal Hazardous Materials Regulation. According to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, hazardous material is a substance or material which has been determined by the Department of Transportation to be capable of posing an unreasonable risk to health, safety, or property when transporting in commerce, and which has been so designated. Each bulk packaging, freight container, unit load device, transport vehicle, or rail car containing any quantity of a hazardous material must be placarded on each side and each end unless otherwise specified by the regulations. When to enter hazardous material information in the CR-3. The Transporting Hazardous Material indicator in the CMV section must be checked whenever any motor vehicle transporting hazardous materials that is required to be placarded under the Hazardous Materials Transportation Act is involved in a crash. This box must be selected when indicating the vehicle or truck-trailer combination that was transporting the hazardous material. If this box is selected, the Hazmat Released, Hazmat Class Number, and Hazmat ID number fields must be completed. Determining what hazardous material information to enter in the CR-3. The hazardous material class and ID numbers can be found on the shipping papers or bill of lading, which should be carried in the vehicle. If shipping papers or bill of lading is not available, or if the class and ID numbers cannot be located on these documents, the numbers may be taken directly from the diamond-shaped placard. The hazardous material ID number is a 4-digit number preceded by UN or NA. The 2-letter designation of either UN or NA may be found on shipping papers. Steps for completing hazardous material information in the CR-3. Determine if the vehicle was carrying hazardous material at the time of the crash. The Transporting Hazardous Material indicator in the CMV section must be checked whenever any motor vehicle transporting hazardous materials required to be placarded under the Hazardous Materials Transportation Act is involved in a crash. If Transporting Hazardous Material indicator is selected, the Hazmat Released field must be completed, which is used to capture whether hazardous material was released at the time of the crash. This does not include the fuel from a vehicle's fuel tank. If transporting hazardous material indicator is selected, the hazmat class number field must be completed. Use the values listed in the CR-3 code sheet to identify the class of hazardous material being transported. Leave this field blank if transporting hazardous material indicator is not selected. If transporting hazardous material indicator is selected, the hazmat ID number field must be completed. This field captures the hazardous material ID number to identify the hazardous material being transported. Leave this field blank if transporting hazardous material indicator is not selected. A few things to keep in mind. It is essential to distinguish issues related to recording of CMV information versus data entry errors in the online report submission platform. The hazmat ID number is an important field that may be prone to data entry error. This number is a 4-digit number preceded by UN or NA. UN numbers are used in international commerce and transportation to identify hazardous materials. NA numbers are issued by the U.S. Department of Transportation and are used in domestic transportation only. They are not recognized internationally except to and from Canada. UN and NA numbers are identical, but some substances may only have an NA number. Given that there are many duplicative numbers used between the UN and NA codes, and not all numbers between 0000 and 9999 are in active use, please ensure that you always write either UN or NA before the number and double-check that you are inputting the correct 4-digit number into the CR-3 crash report. Helpful resources. If you need help with any portion of the CR-3 crash report, there are a variety of resources that can help. You may call the CRIS Help Desk at 844-CRIS-HLP or use their chat function, and review the CR-100 guidance document. There are also crash data analysis trainings and FMCSA tip cards for CMV crashes, all of which you can access online at no cost. This is the end of the segment for completing hazardous material-related fields in the CR-3. If you wish to learn more about how the CR-3 crash data is connected to other systems and how it affects decision-making, please continue to watch.
How CR-3 crash data is connected to other systems. While it may seem like the main uses of your CR-3 crash reports are insurance companies and courts, the reality is that your data is connected to many systems maintained by Texas agencies. Without even knowing it, you may have contributed to and benefited from these systems. When you complete a CR-3 crash form or make a traffic stop, you access data from 3 statewide systems through your agency software: driver's license, Department of Motor Vehicles, and the roadway data system. These data systems provide you with the information to support your safety. The Texas Department of Public Safety Driver's License Division has custodial responsibility of the Texas Driver Data System, which contains nearly 23 million records. This database ensures you have up-to-date driver's license information when you have a traffic encounter. The driver system maintains all critical information, including driver's personal information, license type, endorsements, status, conviction history, crash involvement, and driver training. The state's driver data system interacts with the National Driver Register's Problem Driver Pointer System and the Commercial Driver's License Information System. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles has custodial responsibility for the state's vehicle data system that maintains all vehicle title and registration records in the registration and title system. Critical information related to ownership and identification of the state's vehicles, such as vehicle make, model, year of manufacture, body type, and title brands, is stored in RTS. TextDMV validates every vehicle identification number via the Vintelligence verification software. The state provides title information for original Texas titles and salvage and non-repairable titles to the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. This system ensures you have accurate vehicle information during traffic encounters. The Texas Department of Transportation is the agency responsible for collecting and maintaining the roadway information for the state. Roadway and traffic data elements are maintained within a statewide linear referencing system. Through the system, TxDOT maintains data on over 300,000 miles of public road. When you provide geographic reference points, it enables linkages between road, traffic data, bridge, and pavement condition databases in the Geospatial Roadway Inventory database. Local data is submitted to TxDOT, then validated to be included in the system. Crash data flows into three primary registry types: EMS or trauma registries, CRIS, and local agency record management systems. The EMS and trauma registries are managed by the Department of State Health Services Office of Injury Prevention. The Texas EMS and Trauma Registries is an online reporting system that collects legislatively mandated data on all EMS runs, traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, submersions, and other traumatic injuries based upon a specified criterion. The purpose of registries is to monitor and analyze the EMS and trauma care systems. Data is used to perform epidemiological investigations to identify public health issues and support injury prevention projects, which ultimately improve the efficiency and quality of care that patients receive in Texas. This data is used by the Texas Traffic Records Coordinating Committee to investigate a variety of traffic safety-related issues, including the examination of EMS response time and impacts of not getting individuals involved in crashes to trauma hospitals within the golden hour. This information informs infrastructure improvements and resource allocation to support all first responders. CRIS is the central repository for crash records. Crash data is used by many traffic safety stakeholders to conduct problem identification, project prioritization, and resource allocation. Problem identification is conducted for the Highway Safety Plan. The crash analysis and visualization tool is used to enhance the process of selecting safety projects to submit for HSIP funding consideration. Many law enforcement agencies are using data-driven strategies to make decisions on staffing and scheduling, which includes using crash data. CRIS data flows into the Fatality Analysis Reporting System, which is a nationwide census providing NHTSA, Congress, and the American public yearly data regarding fatal injuries suffered in motor vehicle traffic crashes. Crash data also flows into each law enforcement agency's own record management system that houses their agency data. Agencies use this data to inform decisions and identify areas that need increased enforcement. Information from law enforcement agencies' RMSs flow into court CMSs. Texas does not have a unified court system and lacks a statewide citation system. Instead, courts and law enforcement agencies are independent of one another regarding the management of citations. There are numerous court management systems and records management systems in use by courts and law enforcement agencies around the state. Consequently, there is no citation data uniformity across the state, and records are created and stored by each individual agency instead of a central reporting system and repository. CRIS and court CMS data flow into driver records. In some cases, a court may require an individual to seek drug or alcohol treatment. Documentation of court-ordered treatment fulfillment resides in the court CMS. As you can see, the information you provide has lasting effect because it is used to support safety, funding, and infrastructure decisions across the state and in your community. Thank you for your commitment to providing quality data.